And we are back with another episode of the podcast. I am super pumped. Sorry about the confusion there around timing. It's a little bit weird because we move around so much. I think Facebook is kind of confused about where we actually are. So when it sets an event, it doesn't know whether to pay attention to my clock, their clock, or the local clock. So we do digress. So we're going to put the countdown timer on and we're going to get this episode started in 2.5 minutes. So my friends, my brothers, my sisters, good morning. I hope you guys have had a beautiful start to the year. And of course, this is the first podcast episode of 2023. Pretty pumped to be back, to be honest, guys. Now, I will let you know that I have got my scrunchy face on. I'm up here in Queensland for a couple of weeks in Australia, and as you might remember, Queensland doesn't obey, for some reason, they don't obey daylight savings, and so it's actually 5:30 just gone here. So I wanted to make sure that I got up and come up Monday, rip the scab off, the first one after after New Year's. So it's time to put a pedal to the metal, so to speak. So guys, we're going to get started in this episode in, 1 minute 30. So who we got? Some crew in here. Look at this, 17 people coming in to watch live already. Hello, Vinny. How are you, my legend? We've got Tezza in here. Now, we've got a few Facebook users, and that's because I haven't put the link here to authorize StreamYard, so I'll remember to do that on the next one. But good morning to you guys. I hope you're well. Starting in 1 minute, team. Hello, Kenny. How are you, legend? Lovely to have you company in here today, brother. Matty, boy, what's going on, mate? So lovely to catch up to you, Matty, all the times that we saw each other back home as well, bro. Joe's here. I hope you had a beautiful Christmas, Joe. I hope you're well, mate. Hello, Kevy. What's going on, champion? Showing up for himself. First podcast of the year, of course. I wouldn't expect anything less from you on a Sunday afternoon, Kev. Hey, Burns. Lovely to catch up with you as well, my friend. We're going to be starting in 45 seconds, team. Sue's here as well. Hello, Sue. Good morning, Nikki. What's going on, mate? Lovely to see your beautiful face in here. Nikki, I want you to wrestle your beautiful man, Jeff, out of bed because, he's probably not in bed, but haven't seen him in a while. He's gone a bit quiet in the mastermind, so tell Jeff not to go sleeping. All right, so Mikey Bergman's here. Hello, legend. Couple of Facebook users. Hello, Bobby Gordon. What is going on, mate? Hey, guys. This is awesome. Look at this, 22 people watching live. So I'm going to bring in the TikTok audience now, and then we're going to get started in just 10 seconds. Hello, Christopher Lewis. How are you, my beautiful man? All right, guys, this is going to be a cool episode, I think, to kick off the year, and it's going to set the tone for what we're going to do in 2023. So, guys, without further ado, I've got to make sure that I can remember my intro. It's been a couple of weeks, so let's get started on the count of 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Welcome back to the Better Body Academy podcast. This is the podcast that you come when you're sick of the dumb diets and unsustainable workout programs. And I want to officially, now that the podcast episode has started, say hello to everyone in all of the world and on TikTok. I hope you guys had a beautiful, beautiful, happy new year. Mine was cool. Getting to spend some time with all of my family, first and foremost, friends and clients back in Australia has been amazing. So for everyone that went out of their way to come and say hi and come and join for the time that we're in Sydney, I really, really appreciate it, guys. You guys are amazing. Now, to the crew in Queensland, if you're in Queensland and you want to catch up, we're in Noosa for the next couple of weeks. So would absolutely love to see any and all of you. Our goal this year, or my personal goal, I want to share it with you, is to really start becoming a proper CEO of this mission. And that's going to mean bringing on more people and trying to scale myself so that we can have greater impact. So would love to hear, what are you after? If you haven't thought about your goals yet, I'm going to be doing a vision training as soon as possible to kick this year off. So guys, start thinking about it. But for today, what we're going to do is have a chat about an important topic, and that is how hard should you go in your training, in the gym? And probably the deeper question is, should you train to failure or not? I get this question quite frequently. How hard should I train, and should I be pushing to failure or not? Should I be doing all the drop sets and all the pause sets? And I'm going to answer that in this episode. But firstly, let's talk about lifting weights in the first part, because I think a lot of people are going to come back into 2023 and they're going to be super pumped about their New Year's resolution, and they're going to say things like, I'm not going to do resistance training because I'm just not a gym guy, or I'm more of a circuit girl. And they're going to run those types of comments. And while I appreciate that we all have different tastes, we definitely all have different tastes, I'm very strong on this opinion. If you were going to take up one type of training in 2023 and focus on that type of training that would give you multiple benefits across all areas, it would absolutely be resistance training. Now, I'm talking about if you're totally inexperienced, starting at body weight training, and then I'm talking about moving into some form of lifting, either at home or in a gym. In fact, it is so fundamentally important that you guys who are in Better Body Academy, you know that it's part of our trifecta system. It's number 3 of our trifecta system. So why is resistance training actually that important? Well, many people sort of conclude that they don't want to do resistance training because they don't want to get bulky or they don't want to be muscly. And I know that a lot of you ladies out there, generalizing of course, have said exactly that and then fallen in love with resistance training. Give me like a silent head nod, or let me know if that is you ladies in the comments. The idea of achieving bulkiness or massive amounts of muscle as an amateur lifter, without crazy intention towards your nutrition and your training, is kind of laughable. It's just not going to happen. You're not going to walk into the gym and all of a sudden just get bulky. I think it's a mindset that we have, that we're trapped in, that stops us from getting the benefits of resistance training. What you will get is a number of expected and unexpected benefits. I'll give you the expected benefits: a better overall body composition, better overall management of your body weight, better flexibility and mobility, reduced injury risk, improved bone strength. And to all of you skinnier ladies, I could do a whole entire podcast on this one. Less risk of osteoporosis. And these are just the physical adaptations. What you might not be expecting are these ones. And I'd love to hear what you are feeling, guys. There's 28 people watching here and another 5 or 6 on TikTok. Let's talk about what has really benefited you that maybe I haven't listed here. These are the unexpected ones. Much better sleep. Oh my God, my sleep is crap when I'm not doing any resistance training because it deeply impacts your nervous system. Improved stress management, improved overall mental health, improved confidence, self-esteem, and self-image, improved libido, a surge in your metabolism. And I know one of my favorite clients, Nikki Duggan, said for him, it was about higher self-belief in his ability to do things outside of the gym because he's done things inside the gym because he's done something hard to start each day. I'd love to hear what you guys feel. Once you start your journey, what's going to happen is you're going to have a lot of questions. And that's completely natural because you're new at something. And at the start, the questions are going to be, well, how do I overcome the intimidation I feel? Like, I think in fact, we've got a name for it. We call it gym intimidation. How do I overcome the intimidation I feel? Well, how do I know what exercises to do? What the hell is a rep or a set? But once you start to progress and build your confidence and your training, your questions are going to be more based around how you improve the quality of your workouts, how you make sure that you maximize your results in the gym. Now, one such question, which is the topic of this episode, is how hard should you go and should you train to failure? So let's turn our attention to answering this question fully. I want you to think of intensity in the gym in a continuum, okay? So I've given some names so that you're going to remember what I'm talking about, all right? Now, at one end of the scale, I've got semi-soft nuts. This might be a boy or a girl. You got the girl or a guy who turns up every day to the gym, is consistent, but just goes through the motions and is lifting the same weight as they have for 20 years. They pay attention to the rep count. They'll tell you exactly how many reps they did, but there's no attention given to how they feel. or the difficulty that it creates. They do the same thing week in and week out, and therefore they look the same year after year. Nothing actually changes. So, feel free to admit to it and put your hand up if you're Sammy Softnuts. Sammy Softnuts is the person that goes in there and just does the same thing, no stress, moving through the motions. Now, at the other end, you've got Terry Tough Guy. Terry Tough Guy is no pain, no gain. All right. Everything is useless unless it's 1,000,000%. Every set's got to be a drop set, and every set's got to have maximum grunt, and every set's got to end in me throwing the weights down. You know, these heroes that you see in the gym, many of them that are obviously steroid users. Now, that's a generalization, but I've probably got to be in my bonnet about a couple of things there. But yeah, that's the continuum. So which one of these is best for results? You've got Sammy Softnuts going through the motions, or you've got Terry Tough Guy who is absolutely firing every session and no pain, no gain attitude. Well, I think let's start with one of the most fundamental principles of resistance training, and that is progressive overload. Okay, it's one of the most fundamental principles that you can learn about resistance training is progressive overload, regardless of where you are in your training journey. You might be very new or you might be very experienced. Progressive overload is a way of gradually dialing up the stress of your workouts so that you, over time, put the body into an overload in an effort to grow muscle or become stronger. Okay? It's important to point out that the point of overload is relative to the person. So your overload is different to my overload, which is different to her overload. Okay? It'll depend on your current level of experience, your strength, and other factors like that. And I say this to point out that trying to lift the same weight as everyone else when you are not there yet is absolutely pointless. One of the reasons that I got so strong over a period of time and have managed to retain muscle at 40 years of age without steroids is because I just did good form from day one and didn't try to compete or compare against everyone else. But if you're training like Sammy Softnuts and you're going through the motions in every session, you will never ever see change because you're not obeying the principle of progressive overload. The body is essentially saying to you, well, okay, you're giving me this stimulus and I'm able to do that, so I've got enough muscle and strength to match what you're asking me to do. Side topic, have you ever looked at your dad's hands? My dad's not a massive guy, but he's got pretty big, tough hands. Why is that? Well, because in the building trade, he's holding everything from a hammer to a screed in concreting, and over time, the hand muscles are forced to develop. This is the principle of progressive overload. The more you need to use it, the more they need to grow. The increase in demand causes the growth. So you definitely need a good level of intensity to initiate the process of strength and muscle development. But the message you should take here is that starting intensity for an individual is bugger all because you've never done anything before. But as you get more experience, the intensity is going to need to come up. But there are also some potential downsides of very, very high intensity Terry Tough Guy training, okay? Both short and long term. One of my favorite dudes in the fitness space is Lane Norton, and he has a simple way of talking about it. And all that he says is we need to get the balance between stimulus and fatigue right. Stimulus and fatigue. What we want is to be at just the right training intensity to maximize the stimulus with minimum carryover fatigue. I'm going to say that again. Just listen up so you can get your head around this. What we want to do is we want to get to the level of maximum stimulus so that the muscle is getting the signal to grow, but with minimal fatigue so that you're not carrying that fatigue over and over and over into all of the sessions. Does this make sense? We want to avoid beating ourselves up so hard that we injure ourselves or we're so tired that we can't do a subsequent session. So we have to reduce the weights in our next session because we're so sore or we've gone too hard or overtrained. So that would not be in our best interests. Okay? Now, the initial research, when this was first a topic, reps and sets and intensity, how hard should I train? The initial research showed continuously aiming for failure is beneficial. Okay? However, more recent research suggests that that's wrong. That trying to be Terry Tough Nuts isn't the best approach. Now, I'm going to explain something quickly for the fitness nerds that are listening and have got a little bit of experience. The error in the early studies that said, you got to go hard, no pain, no gain, they only compared the response at different intensities. So a person training very hard and a person training not as hard. But what they didn't take into account is the total amount of work that was actually done. In other words, the total amount of reps of that session. So if you train at higher intensities, you're pushing yourself more. That usually means that you're going to do more reps, right? Which means that you're going to do more overall work, right? That makes complete sense because you're pushing yourself harder. You're thinking to yourself, I'm going to get 10, but no, I've got 2 more in me. No, I've got so you're going to do more reps. But more recent research shows that if you equalize for total volume done by increasing the work done for what the drop of intensity is, then it actually makes no difference. Okay, so in other words, if you were to back it off a little bit, but maybe did let's say in high intensity day, you were doing like Terry Tough Guy day, you were doing 3 sets and it was all out, going to a dark place, 13 reps you managed to get out. Well, instead, what you could do is 4 sets and those extra 4 sets of 10 and those extra little 3 reps that you've added on, if you did them in a 4th set at good solid intensity, then you've accounted or equalized for the work. So it's actually the total work that is the most important thing. Does that make sense? But there is a caveat, okay? There is a caveat. So long as the exercise or the sets that you're working at are sufficiently difficult, okay? Sufficiently difficult. So this is where we bring it back to our Better Body Academy members, because I think a lot of us will kind of go over our head. You just want to know what to do, right? So how does the average gym goer train at a sufficiently difficult level? It's subjective because difficulty varies, right? Most researchers tend to agree on the following. For more isolated movements, so things like dumbbell bicep curls or a leg extension, you need to get to about between 2 to 3 reps short of complete failure. In other words, you can't do another rep, okay? So you want to pull up 2 to 3 reps short of that. For bigger compound exercises like squats or deadlifts or bench press, you can probably get the same benefit because they're such a big exercise with such involvement of all muscles. You can probably get the same response from pulling up about 4 to 5 reps from failure. So practically, let's just get a blanket guide that you can take into the gym. What it basically means is if you pull up maybe 1 to 3 reps short of I have nothing left in the tank, then you will get maximum stimulus with minimum fatigue. Does that make sense, guys? Let me know on Facebook if you're watching on this live and this makes sense. Let us know in TikTok if you're watching live and this makes sense. So the biggest problem that I see here in this advice comes in knowing what failure actually is. Training to failure means continuing to perform an exercise until you can no longer do another repetition with good form. That's what failure means. It's the point at which you've reached the fatigue and you just can't get another rep out. So in the case of a squat, it would mean that you're at the bottom of the movement and you could not possibly get a single rep back up again. That is failure. So applying this rule that I've given you, which is 2 to 3 reps short of failure, let's say the absolute maximum number of reps that you could get in a squat before collapsing is 80 kilograms of 10 reps with good solid form, well then the practical range to aim for might be around 7 to 8 repetitions of that weight. Not the full 10 so that you can't get another single rep out. Does that make sense, guys? And this is where the subjectivity comes in. Experienced lifters, the more experienced you are, you have greater ability to go to very dark places that other people can't go in the gym, often which leads to you collapsing on the floor after the set's finished. And so this makes failure a very subjective thing. But in a way, I think that's a good thing because it means that people who aren't experienced, who've never experienced failure, are naturally going to pull up slightly short of someone who is used to training. And that's exactly what you want. So when you start lifting seriously, what's going to happen is your first year of progress will be your best ever progress because you haven't got the adaptations that resistance training causes. So let's bring this around. Going back to the question of how hard should I go? And so, yeah, we've got a few boys saying, yep, that makes sense. Okay, fantastic. So let's go back to the question, how hard should I go? Well, as much as Sammy Softnuts will get zero change just going through the motions, Terry Tough Guy's approach is not beneficial either without serious negative consequences of fatigue, which you're going to carry over into the next session. Perhaps this is probably why so many guys and girls end up getting on steroids, is because they want to be able to push themselves to a darker place beyond what they can do. And I think for most people, the training intensity does need to be lifted. I think if you go into any gym around the world and what you see is a lot of people just kind of playing on their phones a little bit, for you, the training you just need to go a little bit harder because you're not near failure by even 7, 8, 10 reps. Does that make sense? So if the advice is to pull up 2 to 3 reps short of failure, ask yourself, are you really pushing to that zone? Or is it more likely that you don't really know what failure is because you've never experienced it and you're definitely not within 2 to 3 reps of failure? So we've spoken a lot about fatigue and a lot about injury here, talking about the short-term issues with training to failure. Are there any long-term issues? Because there's going to be a lot of boys, particularly guys like Mikey Bergman and Luke Durham, guys inside Better Body Academy, who are going to say, but I'm still training to failure. Okay, I think most men and women listening to this podcast, either live or on repeat, are looking to get into some sort of decent shape, burn a little bit of fat. They're not here to get on stage in a physique competition, right? So for most listeners here, beating yourself to a pulp over and over and over again is probably going to lead to burnout, right? More just practically burnout. It's probably going to lead to you hating the gym. And that's not a good outcome because of all the benefits that we talked about. If you end up giving up because you're going too hard, then that's not very good strategy. So we just need to probably find that line between I'm being Sammy Softnuts and I don't want to push it too hard because I want to continue to enjoy this process. I'm going to say this down the line to you guys and you guys. This is why I fucking hate the fitness industry. The best training plan is not the technically best training plan. The best training